interview ever.
All right. Here we are with our inspiring podcast series, and we've got Tony Counts, who is one of our coaches with the U11 boys. So welcome, Tony. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day for our club members to get to know you a little bit.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I was excited when I saw the email, and I've been waiting to tell this story a long time.
Awesome. So do you want to just start off a little bit and tell our members where you grew up and how you got involved in the game of soccer?
Absolutely. I am lucky enough to live down in Denver, and I went to Green Mountain High School, and I did not start playing soccer until I was a junior in high school. Played all the other sports and wasn't growing at the rate I guess all the other guys were, and I was not really excited about getting hit in football. And so when my buddies told me, hey, come play soccer for the summer, that sophomore year, I went and traveled around with this traveling team, some of my buddies, and did really well. And I was like, they can't hit me, that's a foul if they trip me. This is excellent. I love this. Scored a lot of goals, loved the game. Went back my first year at Green Mountain High School, junior. I made the JV team, and we went undefeated and won the JV championship. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I like this sport. And then the next year, our senior year, we had 10 seniors and a junior playing goal, 1988. So you can date me there if you want to. And we went undefeated again, 28-0, and won a state championship. And from then on, I was like, okay, I really do love this game. And I started doing a lot of camps during the summer. I did the DU soccer camps for many years, and we traveled around. We went to the MITRE Indoor Nationals in Baltimore and won that tournament, and went to Chicago.
That's my hometown.
Loved it. It was great and incredible soccer. I remember thinking, these kids can't play, and they were really good. I was exceptionally, it was exceptional. It was great soccer, great learning experience. And then again, academics were fine. I was, a peer counselor in high school, had good grades, but I wasn't really motivated to go to college and play. I just had played a couple of years of soccer, and it was fun. And I think that year, Santa Clara and somebody tied for a national championship. And I thought, you know what? I'll go to Santa Clara Community College a couple of years, maybe, see if I like the college life on my own, and maybe walk on. I had no intention of playing, doing anything. And some of my buddies that I had played with that senior year turned down some scholarship offers, and they had told a coach at Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas, you should talk to Tony because he's not doing anything. And he came out and saw us play in a tournament, I can tell you, the day after prom, of which my girlfriend was sick that night, so we didn't drink or party or anything. So the next morning, I was great. Most of my teammates were a little hungover, and I played really well for 3 games. There were some coaches there. I had no idea. They came up and talked to me and asked me if I was interested in scholarships, of which I was really shocked because I hadn't sent out any videos or reached out to any colleges. I did nothing. So I went home, told my mom, and she was like, well, who is it? What school? Where? And I was like, I really didn't know, didn't get any info. A coach, John Sinkowski from Benedictine, called my house. It was on a Friday. And he again said, hey, I have a scholarship for you. And my mom heard me say scholarship. She grabbed the phone, talked to him, acted like an agent, basically, negotiated the deal. And I found out Friday, we partied on Saturday, and I left on Sunday for Atchison, Kansas. No idea.
Super, super impressive, though. I want to stop you right now, though, because like you're saying that you really didn't play the game of soccer until you were a junior in high school. And right. And then here you are getting a scholarship to go play college soccer. Like, and you didn't have this big dream or, aspiration to play college soccer.
No.
But you were in the right place at the right time with the right connections, right? And
yes, absolutely. And I didn't burn out. A lot of those guys had been playing soccer since, the green and white reversible jersey. And by the time they got to, I know that they weren't as motivated as I was. I was like, this is incredible. I'm at an NAIA school, Benedictine, which had won multiple conference titles. And I thought, what a great starting place. And Atchison, Kansas is no big city, so you can understand the focus was academics and soccer. That was really it. And so for 2 years, I was really focused. And I can remember the first day I was there. I got there late. I kind of had missed training camp, and I got there and got on the field and played. And I remember the senior captain coming up to me and saying, "So, what position do you want to play?" And I was pretty impressed with that. And honestly, from there, I just went after it all the time. I did my sophomore year. I blew out my left ankle, which I always tell people it was kind of a blessing because it taught me how to juggle with my right foot on crutches for a long time, which I like to think it made me great with either foot. As being a lefty, you don't want to be one dimensional. And so I was able to go either way, shoot with either foot, pass with either foot, juggle with either foot. And from what I've gathered over the years, that's a good talent to have, to be able to go either way and
Right.
kind of be deceptive.
So did
And
you play for 4 years there at that school, or did you play 2 years someplace else?
2 years at Benedictine. And then what happened was we were in Chicago doing an indoor tournament. It was Benedictine, the only NAIA school, Wisconsin, Green Bay, I think Valparaiso, and maybe UIC, Illinois, Chicago. And those were really good schools. And we actually went out and won the tournament. And I remember one of my best friends from high school had went to Wisconsin, Green Bay, Chad Johnson, um, and he was sitting in the stands with his coach, Aldo Santaga. And I remember him telling me, they basically said, "Who's the black guy?" And he said, "Oh, that's my best friend from high school, Tony." And they said, "Do you think he would come to Green Bay?" And so Chad came and found me after the game, said the coaches wanted to meet me. I went up, talked to him, and they just simply said, "Hey, you're good enough to play Division I. Do you want to come to Green Bay? We have a scholarship for you." I said, "Hold on, I should probably call mom and let her know this." And I did. And she said, "Go, you're going to love it. It's going to be a great time." And we'll circle back to how excited I was to go to Green Bay, because John Sinkowski, who was my coach Benedictine, when I went in to tell him I was transferring, and kids will understand as you get into college, if you're a quality player, they're not going to be happy about you leaving. And so when I had the meeting with the coach and the athletic director, the trainer, they basically said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Wisconsin, Green Bay." And John Sinkowski started laughing. And I was like, "It's a Division I school, man. What are you laughing at?" And he said, "Who's the coach?" I said, "Aldo Santaga." And he said, "That was my coach in college," and gave me the blessing. And off I went to Wisconsin. And I always tell people, I didn't realize what I had been doing in my earlier life. My uncle played for the Green Bay Packers. Les Goodman, he was a running back. And there were times when I was younger that I think we had went to Lambeau, and I never thought anything of it. I was just watching my uncle play football. Here I am back there many years later. Before he passed away, I called him and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Green Bay. I'm living in a house downtown." And he said to me, "Where are you living?" I said, "Pine Street." And he said, "Oh, is the Mako across the street?" And I was there in 90. Nothing had changed since he was there in 78. And Mako was still there. And he said, "Enjoy it. You're going to have a great time," because Wisconsin Green Bay was the only Wisconsin school that did not have a football team. So a lot of the finances went to soccer and basketball and
Like a dream, huh?
women's. Yeah, the facilities were incredible. We traveled everywhere, had the team bus, and it was everything I imagined Division I soccer would be, and had a great time. Traveled all over that area, from Portland to Connecticut, and played a lot of players. And again, my eyes were open. I was still motivated because we got beat by a lot of great players, of which I thought I was pretty good. So I knew I still had a lot to learn. 2 years
No, but
there.
I want to ask you a question, okay, before you
Go ahead.
continue. So, like things were happening for you, right? Without
Yeah,
you really seeking it out. So,
absolutely.
what do you think you had as a player that caught people's eyes to say, "Hey, we want this dude. We want Tony Counts on our team"?
Um, as you know, I do have a gift for gab, and I do like to speak. And I think immediately I kept thinking this would be great game to coach. I had played every sport, loved them all, and did really well. But soccer, there was just something about it. It clicked with me. And so I was kind of a gnat in the coach's ear all the time, whether it was, "Why this drill? What's the next drill? what's the point of this drill? And always seeing and trying to change and adapt my play. Let me mention, my first year I played forward as a junior. I scored a bunch of goals. I was fast. Can't say I was super skilled. Over that summer, I worked hard, a lot of individual drills, a lot of one-on-one, small-sided games with teammates. My senior year, I made that varsity team as a left fullback. And I remember the coach saying, "Do you want to play left fullback?" And I said, "Can I score goals?" And he said, "I would love that." And so, yeah, our defense attacked all the time. We were high pressure. It was amazing. When I ended up going to college, my first year Benedictine, I played forward. And then the coach said, "Could you run the midfield?" And I said, "I'd love to." And I ended up playing center mid. So I went from fullback, center mid, and then finished up at forward because I don't know, I love scoring goals, as well as, yeah, as well as setting up great assists.
Yeah.
The give and go is always something that was pleasant. And even sometimes having an open shot, if you see a man coming in behind, it was nice to throw people off and lay it off for them to finish. And I did a lot of things like that, which made me kind of unselfish. And I think coaches saw that. And I had a drive for it. I hadn't played that long. And so I was always curious and had a drive to win and keep playing. So
Did you see yourself improve as a forward as the more you moved back, and then when you got put back into that forward position, did you feel like you learned a lot from being able to see the entire field and having a majority of it in front of you instead of always having your back to goal? Do you feel like that helped you become a better forward?
100%, because as a midfielder, whether you're checking to the ball, if I have a defender who's giving me a lot of room, I'll go all the way back to our sweeper, stopper, fullback, someone check back and receive that ball, turn and look around. And I had a great connection with a lot of the forwards that were playing when I was a midfielder. And I always like to say lefties are really smooth, and I had a good knack for putting through balls through for those guys. So as a forward moving back up there, it was a timing thing, whether it was a nook, a look, a nod, a wink, or just knowing there's an open space, my midfielder's going to put it there for me to go get it. And I did. I learned a lot, just timing and finding open space. You don't always have to go forward. There's no problem with checking back. And I remember my coaches used to tell me, "Why are you always one touching?" And I said, "Because I can." And he said, "Well, you could keep it." And in my head, I remember saying, "There's a time and a place to beat a defender." And one of our mottos I will never forget from high school, it was shoot, pass to shoot, play it safe, or dribble. And I was pretty good at dribbling when I had to in the final third, and had no problem getting off a quick shot. So um, sharing the ball, receiving the ball, finding space. I learned a lot from playing all the way in the back to moving all the way up front.
Yeah, I can see the passion for this game still in your eyes, Tony. It's good to see. You get me excited. So, so a lot of our members don't know this about you, but you played semi-professional.
Yes.
And so here's somebody, once again, who didn't play the game until they were a junior in high school. So did college soccer get you excited to go on and try to see if you could be a professional soccer player, or was this something that just landed on your lap again?
Well, it got me excited to do it because being in Green Bay, 3-hour drive from Chicago, a lot of the older guys, when I got there, my junior year, a bunch of those guys were from Chicago. So when they graduated and left, they went down and played, semi-pro for their hometowns. And they came back, they kept tabs on Green Bay, and they saw what I was doing. And one of the coaches down there came up and said, "Hey, our guy said you should play." And again, I was like, "Chicago? Yeah." I mean, that was the Jordan time. And I'm thinking, this is going to be magic. I've never been
Are
to
you
Chicago.
watching the Jordan series right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's a great flashback to what Chicago was like at that time. And I got lucky enough to play with the Chicago Kickers, and, which morphed into the Chicago Fire. That was kind of a feeder team.
Mhm.
And it was amazing. I'll never forget it. The players that we went up against were from all over, and there were a lot of guys from other states that moved to Chicago because of that league at the time. They had a great indoor team as well, and they played an indoor league. of which we played in sometimes
You
in the
know,
winter.
not many people know about that indoor league. You know, I was a huge fan of the Baltimore Blast, you know, back
Yes,
in the day.
yes,
And
yes,
that indoor league was pretty amazing with all the international players that they signed and brought over. It was pretty
yes.
sweet.
It was great, and having that opportunity to play at high level indoor, then once you're able to get back outside, it's amazing the touch and skill and vision that you have if you know how to create the time.
Mhm.
And
So
playing indoor.
what was it like being a semi-professional player? Like what did your day look like, and
Oh,
what were your biggest challenges?
well, as I had mentioned to you earlier, we started playing while we were still in school. So the challenges were working out on our own while we were at school during off season, and then driving down to Chicago and not partying. That would be the biggest challenge, because we'd leave maybe on a Thursday and we're there all day Friday, and we would go to Arlington Park to the horse track and hang out, get some golf in, and then get up Saturday morning and be ready to play a high level game, or it could be Saturday evening, or it could be Saturday night. And so we had to be adults and be responsible. And I didn't, I didn't, I didn't really focus, I would say, because I was at a point where I was like, wow, I'm really good playing on a semi-pro team without trying. And at that was really before the MLS had started, so I didn't really know what my future would be after that. That's when I really started thinking about the coaching. And so my first coaching start was at Green Bay East High School, my after my senior year there, and I coached with a guy named Rod Otten, who I think is maybe now a national referee. And again, being a JV coach to start, and learned and loved it. And he kind of gave me a passion for coaching. And so as I was playing in Chicago, I started to miss Colorado. I got lucky enough to play as well with the Milwaukee Rampage one season before I headed home. And again, it was the same thing of I missed Colorado. I can honestly say that I missed the mountains, and the soccer thing. It was hard to go back to Green Bay, work. I didn't move to Milwaukee or Chicago or anything. I just stayed in Green Bay, worked, had some great connections, and then would travel down. And, that got taxing a little bit, driving, doing that. And like I said, I missed Colorado. So I came home, and I immediately tried out with the Pikes Peak Stampede. And that was kind of after the Rapids got started. It was kind of their MLS feeder squad, I believe, down in Colorado Springs. And I made that team and captained that squad. And again, it was one of those where you're traveling around. I would drive from Denver down to the Springs, and we might catch a van or bus, or sometimes they would let us drive ourselves. And I mean, we went to Idaho and Iowa and Nebraska and Kansas, and crazy again. I guess it's, semi-pro soccer. We won a night, I think a state cup or the Open Cup, and we were playing the final in the old Mile High Stadium, and the Rapids coach was there. And so we were kind of being sized up to see if any of us were going to move up to the Rapids. I hadn't started that game. I remember the coach walking down, and I thought, okay, this is my shot. And I started lacing up, and he told me, hey, they want to move you up to the Rapids, but they want to trade you to Tampa Bay. And my jaw dropped, and I straight said, I don't want to go to Tampa. I'm home and I love Colorado. And he said, well, I can't put you in because they want to trade you. And I said, well, this is going to be my last game. And I can tell you, 4 days later, I ended up moving to Steamboat, and I haven't looked back. I've been here 20 years now.
Yeah, so no regrets for not being traded to Tampa, and seeing if you could have made it to the professionals?
A little regret.
Yeah.
Because there was the opportunity. It was something I had wanted and thought about, and then I might have been burning out at that time. I had a pretty good job, but people will tell you I am a people person, but I do like my private time and quality time, even if I'm golfing by myself. I find solace in that, and I didn't want to go to Tampa, and so I swallowed that pill, and I moved to Steamboat. And a friend of mine, we know Eric McClelland.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him while I was down in Denver, and my roommate at the time said, "Hey, Eric's from Steamboat. You should talk to him. There's great people, great snowboarding, and great soccer." And apparently a bunch of athletes lived up here. And so to get up here and start playing co-ed with Steamboat Medical was amazing, because the women hit harder than the guys. And so the competition level didn't drop in any way. And there was indoor and outdoor soccer. And then we had the Steamboat soccer men's team. And we traveled around tournaments from Vail to Junction and you name it. And we played really well. And so the competitive fire kind of got sparked up and kept going. And at 50 years old, I will still lace them up and keep running against these young guys.
Yeah, and you're fun to watch. You're definitely fun to watch. And I think I might have had the opportunity to play against you in one of our alumni tournaments.
Yes, yes,
So
you did.
you're still quite skillful, but I think you're a bit younger than me. But
I don't know.
but I'm going to use that as my excuse. But
Okay.
but so some amazing players, I guess you've had the opportunity to play with or against. Is there anyone out there that that maybe became a professional that you had the opportunity to play with or against, or who would you say is the best
Yeah.
player you've played with?
Well, I do remember playing against Brian McBride when I was in Chicago, and he was amazing. There was, you'd have to name off because I can't remember, some of our national team goalies back when, Alexi Lawless and those guys, not Miola, but after Tony
Is there one
Miola,
named Tony? I was going to say Tony, but
not
yeah.
Tony Miola, there was another guy who I played against. He was at Portland University, I believe, at the time. And he ended up being a goalie for the national team, and we played against him. He was amazing because I was one of those people who I had a pretty good shot from outside the box, and there were times where I would put my hand up thinking it was in, and he got there. So that shocked me. There was a guy named Yari Allnut, who he was as well from Connecticut. He was amazing. And Lagos, Manuel and Gerard Lagos, they were from Minnesota. Played against those guys where they were at Milwaukee. And I can honestly, I'll give the top bidding to my guy who's still a good friend of mine, Tony Sana. He was at Milwaukee. He was the one who got me on the Milwaukee Rampage team, and I played with him before he ended up making his move to DC United, where he won an MLS Cup, and then he went on to the national team. And that, again, was one of the reasons I regretted it, because his level of play, and he told me I could play, and I walked away. And I in my head, I think I could always hung with Tony and could have done some even more magical things than I have in my life.
Yeah. But I'm sure that you've moved on, and we have seen it already that you've done some magical stuff here in Steamboat. So life's all about choices, right? That we make, and your life might be completely different if you went that route, right?
100%. And I've said, as I've watched these Steamboat kids play, having the opportunity to coach with Rob Bowman and yourself and Hobie and Ben Bell and all the Steamboat alums, this is a place where I want to see my son and our U11s and 12s. I've told them since they were 10, 8 years old, 8 years, guys, maybe we can be on that turf field holding a trophy. And I didn't play at the age that these little guys are playing. And our guys, our club is amazing. And to see the dedication and level of play that these kids have, which I would like to say, hopefully it attributes from some of our great coaches. There's a passion that they have, and I hope they keep it. That was one of the things I didn't play when I was this little. So I hope that they have a fire that's, unquenchable to be able to last the duration, or they're going to make those choices and maybe find a different sport, which unfortunately that may happen, as well as there may be some other athletes that come over to soccer, like myself.
Yeah, and you see that a lot, people's interests and passions change, right? And
Absolutely.
And that's not a bad thing. It takes a while for people to figure out what they're truly passionate about. So I know you go by a few nicknames, Cat in the Hat and T Kitty. How'd you get those?
All right, so the T Kitty, I'd like to, you can give that to Hobie and McClellan, because they threw that out there, I think, really when I first got here. And again, quiet, let the play do the speaking. Those guys taught me not only do we win the game, but we win the party. So when we traveled, Kitty came out a little bit every once in a while, finicky like a cat, and a little emotional and sensitive sometimes. I did learn when we lost, you have to lose and learn. I can say when I was younger, I was a bad loser. And to friends that I played against, I've always said, I apologize. I didn't mean to be that way, because we won a lot. And so I was used to winning. And when we
Yeah, but
lost,
that's where drive comes from, right?
absolutely.
Like I don't think you can apologize for that. I think some of the best players out there, it doesn't matter which sport, or some of the most successful CEOs or whatever, right? They've got to be, they have to have that drive, passion, and they get upset, right? Because you
Yes.
want to win,
Yeah.
you want to be the best.
Yes. And I can say there were times when I'll never forget, like playing in Chicago, there were like the Bavarians from Milwaukee. They would say, "Get the black guy." And to me, that was like, oh Lord, like, what do you mean? And they laid the wood on me. And that's when, again, Cat in the Hat, that kind of came about from being up here, having this passion to speak and talk to people and never really be shy or scared. um, I was lucky enough to get on a stage and start rhyming, and that only happened because years back I hit a tree on Sunshine Lift Line, and had a little knee damage, and so I was down for a little bit, and I was mentally down because I had never had any injury except for the ankle. And my mom said, "You better write about it and stop being a baby." And so I would write, and then I realized when I was writing, it was rhyming, and so I connected with some DJs, and lucky enough to get on the stage every once in a while and do some shows. And I was at Johnny B's one morning, and some kid said, "Hey, you were the guy rhyming last night. What's your name?" And I didn't really have a name. He said, "You were that Cat in the Hat. What's your name?" And I said, "Yeah, Cat in the Hat." And so we went with it, but we spelled it with a K, A-T, and a dash, because we did get a call from Disney attorneys that said cease and desist, because we first did regular Cat in the Hat with DJ Cochise, who was a local here, and they told us you can't have that name and make money. And so had to change it to K-A-T.
That's
And
great.
still kind of throw it out there every once in a while when asked.
All right, so I'm a mom of two boys. So during this entire interview, you've mentioned your mom a few times, and it
Uh,
seems like she's been a bit of an inspiration for you, and you seem to kind of go back to her about every choice that you've made in your life.
well, I'm sure she's going to watch this, and when she gets a chance, I guess. And yeah, a single mom who said, "You're going to do something with your life. There's no ifs, ands, or buts." Started academically. Anything less than a C was really not allowed in the house. Otherwise, I wasn't allowed to leave the house. So academics were important because, as she said, that's going to get you to college. The sports stuff is great. That'll help. And then it all kind of came together. And still to this day, my mom, international surgical tech, she's traveled the world. She saves people. She thinks outside of her head, and her best life is helping and serving others. And my sister is the same way. And I think it's taken me a while to learn that's a good way to live. I used to ask her if I was adopted because, they went on and did all these amazing things. And I was like, I'm in Steamboat. I coach soccer and golf now. And I get to run a cool bowling alley, of which that's my love. And I got no stress. And having been in Rotary out here and been on some boards and committees, it's been amazing. And I want to leave a good lasting legacy for my son to follow, as well as make sure my mom understands that I've listened to the lessons that she taught me. And I still do apologize to her every once in a while, because apparently my son is just like me. And if I did some of the stuff he's done, I know I drove her crazy. So love her, and still talk to her every chance I can.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, so we all know that you're quite the entertainer and apparently a bit of an MC. So can you send us out with a little bit of freestyle before you leave us?
Let's try something. Okay. As I sit back and I be writing my rhymes, I think to myself, "Cat, one more time." They call me underdog, coming from behind. Sometimes when we're playing balls and split and grind, I do it for the people I know, not the money, honey. And you may catch me flowing when it's snowing or it's sunny. This is not a competition, but I'm winning, son. And you can give me all the daps and praising when we done. what's the difference between a sport and game? One's making money, man. I'm making a name. Just like the animal, I got the long drive. When I get up on the stage, you're going to see it in my eyes if you check out the technical level of the equipment. It's not a figment, so you can double the shipment. Listen, there have been no injuries reported yet, but I heard on the celly the kitty won another bet. Jeez.
Awesome. I'm so impressed. I can't believe I haven't heard you lay it down like that before. I think we're going to have to get you to finish every coach's meeting with a freestyle. So you better be prepared, dude.
That's Steamboat Soccer Club rap soon. We got plenty of time.
That's sweet. We are very, very fortunate to have you part of our club, Tony. And I love that you've had these amazing opportunities, and I think a lot of our kids can learn a lot from you, and that even people out in our community who haven't learned how to play the game yet and haven't even considered playing the game, it's not too late, right? And
ever. And this is an amazing club for you guys, yourself, Jan, Rob, Hobie, our executive board. To have this club, this level of interest and dedication and commitment from the community in a ski town is something I never thought would have happened to me. So I feel blessed. And again, I'm pretty sure I'm not going anywhere. So
good. We're not going to let you. So
not going to happen. I'm good.
All right. Sweet. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks again.
Thank you much. We'll see you soon. We'll work on your bowling game.
All right. I'm pretty good.
That's what I heard.